Hello and welcome to the For Pete's Sake podcast. I'm David O'Connor with eXp Realty.
And I'm Alex Blenkarm with eXp Realty.
And today we will be reviewing the Peterborough City May 2023 market stats. We also got a deal of the month, tip of the month, and as usual, Alex got some grim economic news for you. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
Alex, how's it going?
Good, man. Good, man. How you doing?
Good. And you enjoying the rain?
Yeah, I think we've got, I was looking at the forecast, a good 14 or 10 days of rain coming up. So looking forward to that. Always nice showing a house when it's pouring.
I was like, with this kind of weather, I'm like, I might as well emigrate back to Ireland.
Yeah. Reminds you back home, eh?
Yeah, I'm going to throw you under the bus here today. I know you got some economic updates for everybody. So without further ado, let's hear some bad news.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a typical Canadian economy. Nothing but bad news. We've got the Bank of Canada, which came out on June 7th and shocked the entire world, or Canada at least, with a quarter point increase to their interest rate. So that puts us at 4.75% for their overnight lending rate. And interesting, so that impacts the variable rate mortgage side of things, as well as home equity lines of credit. It also impacted the fixed rate side of things, but the fixed rate is based on the government 5-year bond. So what's neat is you can kind of see the impact of the Bank of Canada announcement on that 5-year bond. And we saw the 5-year bond increase by 0.2% on the same day, on June 7th. So it's hovering, I checked before we started recording, it's around 3.7. So it's still kind of at that 0.2% increase compared to what it was on June 6th. And this directly impacts your fixed rate. So just like the overnight interest rate from the Bank of Canada impacts your variable rate. So when that goes up 0.25%, your variable rate also goes up 0.25%. The Bank of Canada's announcement also impacted that fixed rate because it impacted the 5-year bond yield. So that 0.2% increase to that 5-year bond yield directly goes on to your fixed rate. It depends when the banks or the lenders implement this, but you can expect to see, if you were at a 5.8% fixed rate that the banks were offering, now they're going to be offering a 6% fixed rate at typically those big 5 banks and, a number of other lenders as well. And then there's some more bad news. So we're not just talking interest rates. We got to talk a little bit of macro. So the International Monetary Fund, or the IMF for short, came out with a report, and they found that Canada runs the highest risk of mortgage defaults in the world. So that's pretty fun.
Is that in the world, or is that just G7?
That was in the world. Yeah, they looked at a number of others. I think there were Norway was up there as well. I think Sweden was up there. What we can do is kind of put the report down in the description below so you guys can reference it as well. But what they did was they looked at 5 different factors and kind of scored each country based on these 5 factors. And they attributed Canada's risk of default to the highest levels of household debt and the large share of borrowing at those floating rates, or those variable rates that change based on government policy, like the Bank of Canada increasing their interest rate. That also increases a mortgage payment if you've got one of those floating variables. Now, in terms of the household debt to income ratio, this is where the G7 comes into play. Canada was ranked highest among the G7 in the average household debt to income ratio. So what is your debt to income ratio? Basically, it's the ratio between how much a household brings in, that's the income, and how much they spend, that would be their debt. And what they actually found was the debt to income ratio was very similar to what it was in 2007. And you remember what happened in 2007, 2008? Yeah, not good news there either. Then there was an interesting report from Equifax, a whole bunch of interesting reports coming out. This one had to do with Canadians missing payments on non-mortgage credit. They found that this was up 15.7% from the first quarter of 2022. And they found that Canadian consumers on average spend 21.5% more each month on credit cards compared to what they did in pre-pandemic levels. So this research suggests that people are feeling the pressures of higher mortgage payments and they're turning to credit cards to cover other expenses. So not good news there. Basically, it's setting up a great storyline for some really bad news, potentially an R word coming in Q3 or Q4 of 2023. So let's see what happens there. You have any thoughts about that, Dave?
Well, my first thought is, with all this bad news, you're not being invited to any dinner parties anytime soon.
No, I think they call me the bearer of bad news, I believe.
Oh, bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like I don't have my pulse on maybe as much as you do, but it looked like we were trending a different direction before June 7th. So to me, it wasn't so much the quarter point as alluding to there's going to be more. I think that's going to be enough to maybe start scaring away some buyers from the market. And as we just started to trend up and felt like we were just recovering, I think we might. Well, we've already seen it. Spoiler: the numbers you're about to see, but we're going to start trending the other way.
Yeah, it was a pretty big shock on June 7th. I don't think the majority of the market did not expect the rate increase, and the Bank of Canada is really just doing their job. Basically, their goal is to increase interest rates to prevent people from spending money. By making money cost more, in theory, it's going to prevent people from spending money and reduce inflation because people aren't spending money. So that's their goal. That's what they're trying to do. It's easy to kind of villainize them, but ultimately they are just doing their job.
Yeah, you got to curb inflation. And what's the date? It's in July, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it's mid-July. I'd have to double check.
The Bank of Canada is meeting next, so yeah, we'll have to keep our eyes on that. All right, now that we've bummed out everybody, let's have some fun. Let's look at the May 2023 Peterborough City Market Stats.
Yeah, let's dive right into these. So, average price decline. More good news. 12.5% for the average price. It declined year over year. Again, May 22 was another hot month for real estate in 2022, and new listings declined as well. Number of sales, not a huge decline there, 4%. So that is, some good news. New listings did decline by 14%, and days to sell increased by 38%. So not as bad as last month. I think we were 1,000% increase last month. So only a 38% increase in May.
Yeah, and again, this is year over year, May of last year to May of this year. My big thought was when I saw, well, as we get into it, the month over month here, we'll see that average sales price drop from May, because we had a big jump in April. Well, we went up 12% to an average, I think it was, we'll see on the next slide, but 695 maybe average detached freehold. And then we dropped, but it felt like we were trending. I thought we were going to hit the low sevens, but instead we dropped 5 or 6%.
Yeah, looking at the graph there, like you can see, we're going like this, and then all of a sudden we're going down. So yeah, I think we lost around $50,000. So there it is. It's 49,000 roughly, month over month in terms of the average price.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I was kind of caught off guard. I think I messaged you when I saw, on social media, some of the brokerages starting to post their numbers, and I was like, oh, this can't be right.
Yeah,
because it feels like things are picking up, things are selling, things are going back into competition, and then I saw this, and then no, it looks like something happened, and we dropped 5 or 6%. So let's figure out what happened.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see. We'll kind of dive into it a little bit, but let's see kind of what happened activity-wise. new listings are up there. You can see month over month. That's a pretty big jump. And there it is there. So from 122 to 163, you compare that to May of last year, we're slightly down. But overall, I mean, we're pretty close to the average for May, I would say, over the last 5 years. And yeah, we saw a pretty big increase month over month. So what have you kind of seen boots on the ground in terms
Well,
of?
that's it. What I've seen is a little bit of a shift, and there was, for the longest time, there was more sales than new listings, and we're kind of burning through our inventory. But what we're seeing now is, there's more product coming to market, so buyers have a little bit more of a selection. I especially see that jump month over month for our market. That's a pretty big jump.
Yeah.
Up what 41 there. So that does definitely explain or partially explain why we saw the average price drop. Is if you have a little bit more to choose from, less competition is driving up prices, and then you see a moderate drop in the average sales price.
Yeah, and we'll kind of get into it a little bit, but distribution of listings as well. When there's more to choose from, you've got maybe a little bit variety in terms of price range, where you might see some more lower price listings come to the market because there's just more listings in general.
Exactly.
Number of sales, yeah, a little bit of an increase there month over month. So we saw kind of increases in both measures of activity for new listings and number of sales. We're still, four sales below what we were in May of 2022 when things were still pretty hot. We did see, about 18 more sales this month than we saw the last month. So that's a good sign. The buyer demand definitely seems to be back. I know we've had a couple of conversations just anecdotally about buyers reaching out now especially in the month of May, kind of early May, trying to get, back into the market and start looking at homes again. So definitely more buyer activity out there in May than in April.
And I think in one of the earlier podcasts, we did mention how we thought maybe by June would be the first time we kind of catch up year over year.
Yeah.
Pretty similar numbers. And it looks like we're definitely trending that way.
Yeah, in terms of activity. Then we've got the good old active listings and number of sales graph here. So as always, the blue bar is the number of sales, and the green bar is the number of active listings. So you can see kind of the difference between that green and blue bar is kind of a measure of what's left in the market. That's how many listings are left after the number of sales. And you can see month over month, it's relatively the same, that difference between that green and blue bar.
Yeah, it's been pretty consistent. Like it looks like sales went up, but inventory went up. So it's kind of like they're almost parallel to each other right now.
Yeah. And there's kind of a visual representation of the numbers. So 142 active listings and 96 sales for the month. So you can see that active listing number increase since March. And you also see the number of sales increase as well. And then days to sell. I mean, this is really, I guess, a good measure of buyer urgency. It does, again, depend on list price. That does influence things, and whether or not properties are holding offers, which we definitely saw in May. I think last week there was 2 properties that were listed under 300,000 in Peterborough, which is pretty rare. And those were both holding offers, and they did both sell. I think they tend to hold offers around seven days on average and give people a chance to look at it. So no change there month over month. Quite not a bad change, 13 days to 18 days year over year. Again, we're pretty average over the last 5 years at 18 days, it looks like. So nothing really alarming there.
Yeah, no, I did last month think this number was going to continue to drop, but as we obviously with the news that's come out recently as well, I expect this to be the same or actually increase by next month.
Yeah,
because I think there's going to be an abrupt change to the market mid-month. So I think the first week of June is going to be a lot different than the back end of June this month.
Yeah, and again, all of these market stats are all really based on the interaction between buyers and sellers and both their sentiments. So if sellers believe that their house is maybe worth more than a buyer is willing to pay, it's going to, stay on the market and it potentially won't sell. It's going to influence that days to sell number. Then on the buyer side, if a buyer is not willing to either pay what the seller wants, or they're just not looking to buy in general, we're going to see number of sales go down and potentially as well see that days to sell increase.
And I find there's always a lag between with the sellers and how they're pricing things. So we're talking about how we saw a lot of decreases in cancellations, and it's, sellers are still pricing it like it was a month ago. Well, we're starting to shift down a little bit. So these prices are a little too much for this market. So the days to sell will go up. Where we saw a trend of holding starting, I think that's going to decrease again as we almost feels like a little bit more of a balanced market as of late. I think you're going to see a lot more agents or sellers pricing things closer to price to sell, like we saw maybe 2-3 months ago.
Yeah.
I thought we saw a little bit of a trend more towards a heavier sellers market with holding starting. And yeah, I think that's going to start going the other way now.
Yeah, again, it all depends on how these buyers react to this news. And that's really something to watch. I mean, nobody likes reading the news because, as we learned earlier, it's nothing but bad news. But it's important to look at that and how the market reacts to it is something. And these stats are a great way to measure how the market reacts to it. If there's a spree of bad news coming out in June, like we seem to have seen, maybe we'll see everything decline, activity decline, buyer sentiment decline in the month of June and the stats that come out next month.
July is going to be a big month.
Yeah. This one's kind of neat. So months of inventory, we're down sub 2. Now, looking at the graph, I don't know if I attached it here, but we are sub 2. Like we're at 1.9, and last month we were at 2.1. So yes, it does show up as 1 in the data, but really we're at 1.9. It wasn't a huge change month over month, but we are sub 2. And if you look at months of inventory in last spring when everything was nuts, we were at one month of inventory. So we're kind of close to what it is there. It's definitely still technically that seller's market. But again, let's see what happens in terms of buyer and seller sentiment moving forward in June.
Yeah, definitely.
So as we kind of touched on a little bit earlier, we're kind of going to ask the question, is the market starting to shift? So what I did was we kind of looked at the distribution of sales. So yes, we saw a month over month decline in average price, but was that because there were lower price listings selling, and was that skewing the average price?
Yeah, that's where we're talking about how in our market, the sample is so small that, some $1 million listings selling like a half dozen could really skew the numbers or shift the numbers.
Yeah. So I mean, I think we had 98 sales. So when you look at that, I mean, you've got 31% of 98 sales is roughly, 31 homes. So again, like you're saying, if something sells for $1 million, you get 2 or 3 or 4 of those sales in the month, it can absolutely skew what the average price comes out as. So it's important to look at this. I think this is probably going to be something we'll continue, where we look at changes month over month. So what is the price distribution in May versus the price distribution in June? And how did things change? So as you can see here, I mean, a lot of the weighting is towards that left side of the graph, where you've got, $500,000 to $700,000 is taking, the brunt of the sales for the month of May.
Yeah, and that's before I even saw that. That's where I'm seeing a lot of the listings and a lot of the activity are in those price ranges.
Absolutely, yeah. So let's talk about the tip of the month here, Dave. What are some tips for preparing your house for sale? What are some things that you can do to prepare?
This is going to seem a lot of this is going to seem pretty obvious, but you'd be surprised like how many people don't do the little things right. And it's just basically preparing your house 101. First thing you got to do is make sure your house is clean. You'd be surprised. I've taken buyers through, and I've had clients look in ovens or run their fingers along countertops, see a little bit of dust, and just get completely turned off. They feel like this house wasn't cared for. It's a sometimes a mental block for some people, but it's also a good sign that the house wasn't cared for. So cleaning your house, tip number one. Decluttering, that is huge. I know. You sometimes you don't even realize how much clutter you have until you start dealing with it. But you want to open up the space, remove big furniture pieces wherever you can. Also depersonalize. It's like sometimes they tell you to depersonalize, but you got to help them picture living there. But you got to get all the stuff off the fridge, all that kind of stuff. You can't have it's great you have the shrine of all the grandkids and all that. Maybe maybe clean that up a little. Keep a couple, but because you got to have a little bit of character pieces. But you want to declutter the house. Then this seems like an obvious one again. Professional photography. I'm personally a fan of whenever you can, personal photography, video, and even a virtual tour with digital floor plans. It seems like a lot, but what you're trying to do is when you have a good online package, which is what 90-something% of transactions are happening. If you have a really good package that helps show the space really well, you'll get more showings, more bodies going through the house, and usually that results in potentially more offers and better offers because you're getting more bodies through. And then maybe the last one is staging. I find I've done full stages, partial stages. It depends. Sometimes maybe the entranceway, like you want to make a good first impression. Maybe you want to stage that room, maybe the rec room, one of the bedrooms, or sometimes maybe a full-on stage. Really, there's a lot of good stagers. Both Alex and I obviously have contacts if anybody ever needs anyone. A lot of times they'll come in and work with your stuff or make suggestions. Sometimes it's swapping out light fixtures and things like that. And maybe the last one, again, is like lawn care. I just had a listing and I just realized the day before we went to market, I'm like, it's like dandelion season, right? All the dandelions are up and it doesn't seem like a lot, but you want to manicure that lawn, pull those weeds. This particular house had a couple of planters that were empty. So I bought a couple of planters to throw in there because you want to make that first good impression. So just do those little things. Don't cut the corners. You'll see some people will throw up their property with cell phone photos. I've seen photos that were blurry. I've seen people upload photos that were upside down to the MLS. I was like, again, you got to put that work in, properly prepared, and you'll see the rewards.
Yeah, and there's a stat. I think it's 98 or 99% of buyers start their search online. So this is going to be their first impression of the house is how it looks online. And what appears online, you've got photos, floor plans, digital walkthroughs, videos, all these things appear online. If you can have, a whole bunch of things for that buyer to look at, they're maybe more likely to come see your house. And if this seems super overwhelming of how do I start preparing my house for sale, one thing I found that really helps is a staging consultation. You can get a stager in and they will basically, like you said, point, okay, that couch needs to go on this wall. Let's take that desk and move it into this room. Let's, take those pictures down. And what they'll do is they'll really work with your house and give you tips and tricks on, what to keep up, what to remove, a list basically of things to do to prep your house to get it ready for photography and video. And I find that really, really helpful to have in order to prep your home for sale.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good ones. They'll give you a full report, and you can two ways. You want us to come in and do this for you, or if you want to really cut your costs, I think they charge maybe $250 or $300 for a full consultation. They give you the whole report, and just follow the instructions. Or if you want them to come in and rent pieces and do things, that's something else they can do. It's all about where your budget's at. But I'm a big advocate. I think you put that little bit of money at the beginning, and I think it pays off like substantially. I think the end result purchase price. So if you're just snapping some quick photos and throwing your property out there, it's not going to catch a lot of people's attention. And so that's our tip of the month.
Yeah. And now let's fast forward to the deal of the month. We're at 91 University Road in Peterborough, Ontario. This we highlighted one for location. Let's pull that up right away to show you just how perfect this location was. To tell you the truth, I was actually driving past the other day. I noticed the house was for sale. I pulled it up on Realtor.ca and I couldn't believe that it was sub 500. So this house is listed at 460 or 459. And we highlighted this for, as it says there, Realtor.ca's prompting us. This is a good spot for a first-time buyer. It's in that first-time buyer price range, sub 500. You've got an incredible location. There's County Road 4, basically that, or Division Road. Synonymous kind of. They go out to Durrow, so that kind of goes out right into the country. There's the Five Corners, and you're out into Durrow. You've got the university right here. So it's why it's called University Road, is because off of this is Nassau Mills Road. You've got University Road right here. And you'll notice those green dots. Those are all beautiful hiking trails. So awesome spot to go, walk the dog, walk the kids, just hang out and experience nature in and around here. And then you've got the gorgeous riverfront. And this drive, I don't know how many times I've made it, but it's just so beautiful. In this summer, you're driving down Nassau Mills Road, you're driving along the Tonabee River, you're going to Lakefield. It's a beautiful, beautiful drive. And then I believe this is the Trans-Canada or the Rotary Greenway that picks up right here and goes all the way through the forest, all the way to Lakefield as well. So location is just beautiful, but enough about location. Let's look at the house. So we got a 2-bed, 1.5 bath here. And again, this is, first time buyer type of product. And it's beautiful. You're in a country setting out on University Road. You're surrounded by other gorgeous homes. You've got just a beautiful lot.
Yeah, this one's really nice. I haven't had the opportunity to go through this one, but I'd also think it would be a good one also for downsizers.
Absolutely.
Because it's a more tranquil location, more peaceful. And then what you can't see on the map there was your 10-minute drive to downtown Peterborough.
Yeah.
So you kind of get the best of both worlds.
And you're in the country, but you're in the city is one of the cool parts. One of my favorite parts about Peterborough growing up in kind of the country is you've got country homes and country living, but you can be 10 minutes to a grocery store. You're 10 minutes to the downtown. You're 10 minutes to all the amenities, but you're still out in the country. So this is one of those locations that's like that. And it's really hard to find that type of location under 500. So that's why
10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes from a Costco or going to a movie theater or really nice restaurants. But yeah, it's a perfect balance, I find.
Yeah, really, really cool spot here. And awesome job by the realtor, Monica Cabage here. She did a fantastic job listing the house. Again, talking about professional photography and getting the house ready for sale. Yeah, incredible job.
She knows the listing your home 101 rules.
Absolutely.
That's a good one, man.
Yeah.
Well done. So there we have it. This might be our quickest one yet.
Yeah, we kind of flew through those. I mean, bad news, you try and keep it short and sweet. So,
well, we said, let's gloss over all the bad news. We don't want to completely bum everybody out.
Yeah, if anyone's looking for more bad news, I've got some more for you. But
you can reach Alex. His contact information will be below if you want someone to ruin your day with bad news. No.
Yeah, give me a call.
But good news is after this 2 weeks of rain, hopefully we have a nice little summer. And even if there's more bad news to come, maybe what Bank of Canada is doing will work. And, maybe by end of year or early next year, we'll see things start to trend the right way.
Yeah. Let's see. And in good news side of things, hope everybody has a fantastic Father's Day weekend. I personally, I'm heading home to go see the old man. We're doing a round of golf. I haven't played golf yet this year, so I'm probably going to be, over par for sure. So let's see how that goes. And hope everybody has a fantastic weekend with family and just really enjoys their time in the rain. But hope everybody enjoys.
Well, thanks again, Alex, for putting this all together. I appreciate all your work.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Appreciate you as well. So without further ado, here it is. That's all, folks. Take care, guys.